Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank everybody for attending another episode of 360, one of our Black History series this year.
As those who've been with us for a while know, we are a social commentary collective. We're striving to promote dramatic change, establish bridges of revolution through changing mindsets, bringing people together to discuss some important ideas of racial justice in particular. And if this is your first time with us, then I think it's important to note that we're an open group. We believe strongly in transparency and open democratic dialogue. And so throughout this evening, we encourage you to ask questions in the chat. We encourage you to react to what you're hearing from our esteemed panel, whom we'll introduce in just a second. And we want to hear from you. We want your reactions. We want to know what you're thinking. If you have questions, we want to ask those so that you can get the knowledge and the inspiration out of this experience that you're hoping to get. As I've said before, the Black Panther Party is the most revolutionary organization ever to be founded, ever to be imagined on this continent, in this country. And so it is a great honor to have veteran members of the Black Panther Party with us tonight to inspire us, to help us reimagine the world in the way that they saw it and the way that we all want it to be, and to find motivation, get ideas for how to work in our own communities and together to bring about the kind of dramatic revolutionary change that we know is so sorely needed here in America today. I'm excited to welcome to our program. She needs no introduction, but we will introduce her anyway. She is Sister Paula Peebles, the president of the National Alumni Association of the Black Panther Party, a veteran member of the organization from Philadelphia and also from Oakland, California. So Sister Paula is with us tonight. Peace, Paula.
Peace and all power to the people. Is indeed my pleasure again to be here on tonight, the third series, this series of the Black History program, where you talked about the Black Panther Party. I want to welcome the rank and file members of the party that you have allowed to be a part of this series tonight. I think that's most important.
In addition to Paula, we have other esteemed veteran members of the party with us tonight. We have Ritagay Sisk, also from Philadelphia. Peace, Ritagay. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Oh, power. It's a blessing to be here.
Then following Rita, we also have Cleo Silvers from the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party. Welcome to the program, Cleo. Let me unmute you.
It is such an honor for me to be here with these esteemed sisters. It's a tremendous honor to be here with Rita Gay and Sister Paula.
We have Khalid Raheem with us. He's here now. We want to introduce him next. Peace, Khalid. How are you doing there, brother?
I'm doing okay. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Rita, I got a question for you. What is the Black Panther Party and what does it stand for, in your opinion?
The liberation of people from the belly of the beast of America's imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
We stood for quite a few things: self-defense, and it was known as the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Later, the self-defense was dropped, but we were known for many things: our service programs, feeding the people, educating them. In Philadelphia, we started the Mark Clark free medical program. And we not only did sickle cell testing, we did diabetes testing, education, and provided supplies and medicine for people, because we were blessed to be able to have a medical center, a full-fledged medical center. We had doctors, licensed MDs that came in that helped set up the office and provided these needed services. Also, you're showing a picture of the free busing. We had free busing programs to prison, because the prisons are so far out that people, it takes hours or half a days to get to some prisons. And we were able to provide transportation to people so that they could see their loved ones.
Well, what about you, Brother Khalid? How, where, and when did you join the party?
Well, it was shortly after the murder of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. And there was a cadre of members from the Black Panther Party who were coming through my neighborhood in West Philadelphia. And they were passing out literature, and they were talking to folks from around the community. And there was one brother with them who actually was from my neighborhood, and he had joined the Black Panther Party. And at that particular time in my life, I was no longer in high school, and I was working. I had got kicked out of high school, so I had to go get a job. You know, back in those days, you couldn't stay home forever. You had three choices. You could join the military, right? You could go get a job, or you could find your way to a college campus, right? But you could not stay at home for free. So I had got kicked out of high school, and I was working. I was working the night shift actually, and so being a young guy, being a teenager, I could like actually work my night shift, get off at 7 o'clock in the morning, go back to my neighborhood, and literally hang on the corner with my boys for a few hours before I got some sleep. So I'm hanging on the corner, and we plotting what we're gonna do for the day. And this cadre of people from the party come through the neighborhood. One of them we recognized because he was from our neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the primary brother was a brother named Robert Joyner. We used to call him Points, right? And Points, along with a brother named Sunni Ali, Hawk, Doc. I'm not sure if Dante was with him. I think Dante might have been with him, but I know Doc was from our neighborhood. So Doc was the one. It was Doc, Sunni Ali, Hawk, and Points. They were the ones who basically talked us into coming to our first political education class. So there was a whole crew of us. We was all sitting on the step and hanging around the step. And if you know anything about Philadelphia culture, especially back in those days, that was common, right? And so we all said we was going to go, but when it was time for us to show up for the first PE class, only three of us showed up. And out of the three people who showed up, two of us joined. And out of the two people who joined, I was the only one who stayed. And so that was my introduction to the Black Panther Party.
Did you hold any positions while you went in the
No,
party?
no, I was always a rank and file soldier within the Black Panther Party. I did what most members of the Black Panther Party would do, right? Which basically was to serve the interest of the community through our programs and through selling newspapers. I was tapped, believe it or not, even though I didn't do very well in high school. At some point, I had learned enough and I became disciplined enough where I was actually given the responsibility to teach liberation school from time to time with the smaller children. And I'm always very proud of that because, again, I was a guy who had got kicked out of high school. I actually stayed in the 10th grade for 3 years in a row. I hardly have any remembrance of going to high school. It was just a blur. And I've written about that before. And it was the Black Panther Party through the political education classes that inspired me to take a much more serious interest in education. And it
Wow.
started with political education. And then from there, I was able to expand.
I joined the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia in 1968. How I got involved in the Black Panther Party were two of my classmates had gone to California, came back with papers, and then they started getting the papers regularly. We started reading them, and we knew we wanted some kind of chapter in Philadelphia. William Crawford, Keith, Mumia, and I were invited to attend the meeting. And of course, I was the only female there. I was a high school student, and I can't recall the brother's name now, but he was like, "Sister, you don't belong here." And my brothers told me they had my back. And later on, they made him captain for a little while. And then later on, Reggie became captain. The office was opened up at 1928 Columbia Avenue, which is now Cecil B. Moore. And I'd go there after school. I worked with organizing our student union and brought other young people with me to the meetings, including one of our comrades Robinetta Gladden. We went to school together, and Phyllis, and we did what we were told there. And my mother just couldn't understand how I could get up in the morning and cook breakfast for the children. And she said, you barely got up in the morning, but you get up and you cook breakfast. And she saw that I was dedicated. And my sister also, Rosalind, she joined. And later on, when we had the Revolutionary People's Constitutional Convention in Philly, my mother said she wanted to come, and she was there that whole weekend. And that was right after the pigs vamped our offices and stripped our comrades and had them to, stand out there where they took pictures of them and all that. We were there to serve the people, but after that vamp they did on our office, the people served us. The people opened the office back up because a lot of the Panthers were in jail. So they came, set the office back up and all. So we understood that we were doing something to benefit the people because they were there for us, as well as us always being there for them. So I did hold the position. Eventually, I was communications secretary. I did the bookkeeping under our late comrade. He was Herman Smith then, but Sultan Ahmed. And like all Panthers, I sold newspapers. I worked with our child care program briefly. But most of my time was spent with the newspaper distribution and keeping the financial records for that.
Okay. Now, how much does these papers cost?
I don't even remember. I think they were
25 cents. 25 cents.
25
Okay.
cents. And we were able, we received like 5 cents off of the papers.
Oh, personal, as in like income, or
yes.
the okay, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
now,
if you needed money, you'd easily sell 100 papers because you stay out there till you sell the papers. But then we had regulars that bought the papers. But we go to different areas of the city, say transportation hubs, and sold our papers as well.
Okay. Now you say you joined the party kind of young.
Very young.
So how did your family take it? Were they nervous or?
Well, I came from an activist family.
Okay.
My mother was a community activist. And, she's like, well, why are you joining the Black Panther Party? I said, I'm doing the same thing you did. I'm just taking it to another level.
Okay.
And when the pigs came, the FBI came to my mother's home, and she was divorced. So she was a single mother of 5 children. And they thought they could buy information from her or buy her off or whatever. And my mother flatly told them, that's my child. I birthed her. You must be out of your mind to think that I would do anything to put my children in any kind of detriment.
They wanted your mama to be a snitch?
They wanted to pay her to be a snitch. And my mama was like, that's
to sell
my baby.
you out, to sell her own daughter out.
My mother said, that's my baby. Under no circumstances.
Wow.
But the sad thing was, we did have people in Philly who did take a couple bribes from the FBI. But I can say my mama wasn't one of them.
There you go.
Go ahead, mama. Yes. Yeah, at one point it said they had more informants than they had officers in the FBI at one point. Ain't that something?
Most definitely.
Crazy.
And the thing is, they came in, I guess they were pumped with the history, the organizational structure, and they knew how to work their way up.
How has the membership in the party shaped what you do in the rest of your life, for the rest of your life?
I say I cut my teeth on serving the people in the Black Panther Party. And throughout my life, I continued, whether it was community organizing, being a housing advocate, a housing builder. Everything I did was based on and what I learned from being in the Black Panther Party. I was supposed to be, at one time I ran a NAC, a Neighborhood Advisory Council in Philadelphia, and we were just supposed to be an office that disseminated information from the city for the Office of Housing. But because I had been in the Black Panther Party, you look around and you see what's needed in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically, well, what Huey and Bobby did before they wrote the 10-point platform and program, they went out to the community and surveyed the community. So I surveyed my community and find out what they needed. We needed food because we had men that had families, say maybe 2 children and a wife, and they're making $4 an hour. That's not going to feed their family. So I started an emergency food program. I did housing counseling to help people to be able to purchase houses, which the city said they never would, and they couldn't build enough houses to house the people that were eligible. Hired young people, started a youth job training program. We asked the young men, told them, why you hanging on the corners, doing this, that, and the other? We don't have anything to do. What do you want to do? So we had a playground that just sat forever. Every time they promised they were going to fund it, they didn't. And the young people said, if we could have a basketball court, that'll keep us off the corners. So the 8th Street Playground, 8th and Poplar, I forget how many millions of dollars it was going to be. And they were like, well, we can't give it all to you. I said, well, you know what? A piece of the pie is better than none. Give me the basketball court for the young people and fix up a couple other things there. And that went along fine. But then I found out that the young people weren't letting the little kids come and play. So I drove up in the playground one night in the middle of their game. And I said, I need to talk. Either this playground is going to close down or you're going to share it with the young children. And we put lights up here, special lights. You can be out here 24 hours. The little children can't. They have to be able to have their time.
Mm-hmm.
They went along with it. And I found out if you want to do something for someone, find out what they want and need.
Right.
Don't just say, here, this is what you get. So you find out what they need, they take care of it. They appreciate it.
I'm from Ellenwood. And that's where a community in Philadelphia where everybody's cousins.
Okay.
So I was raised up, Patty LaBelle was raised up next door to me and her little sister Jackie. We played together in the mud and stuff. But what happened was for me is that I joined Vista, right, almost directly out of high school. Well, first of all, I was a part of the group of students from John Bartram High School from which I graduated in Tilden that took over the dance floor at Bandstand when Bob Horn was there.
Okay.
I don't know if people remember this.
Yes.
Okay, but I was involved with that group of students, and we used to take off a half day from from junior high school and go over there to 39th and Market and push our way into the bandstand and demand to be seen. And they wouldn't put the cameras on us. We'd jump our heads up so that we would be seen. So our parents and everybody would know that we had taken off from school because we was being seen on bandstand. So I finally, in 1964, I graduated from John Bartram High School. I came home one morning and it was an ad on TV, join Vista and see the world. Vista was the domestic Peace Corps, where you go into the community. So I just filled out my paperwork. Come to find out, once they let me in, I was the first Black woman to join Vista. So by 1966, I had trained, and I happened to be in the same cohort as Jay Rockefeller, who was used to be the governor of West Virginia, because they sent him to West Virginia. They sent me to the South Bronx. And of course, I worked in the South Bronx, and I was talking about this yesterday. I knocked on doors for 2 years meeting people in the community, talking to people about what their needs were, helping people in the community, and learning Spanish, because the South Bronx was 60% Puerto Rican and 40% African American. And the one thing I had learned in my household is never judge people. And let me just say that the poverty in the South Bronx was so horrendous that it was shocked me. I come from a working class background of Black people who did nothing but work. Everybody in my family, from my grandfather, my grandmother, both grandmothers, all my uncles and aunts and cousins, they all had 2 jobs, including my mother and father. Everybody had 2 jobs. This is African Americans, okay? And so the whole point was to work as hard as you could and be as good at what you did as you possibly could be the best at what you could be. So I don't want to take up too much of the time, but so I worked hard. I learned the community. I engaged with different organizations in the community, with the United Bronx Parents, with the Black Panther Party, with the Young Lords, with all these different organizations. I set up 4 block associations, and I started working at Lincoln Hospital. I got a job at Lincoln Hospital, and I was a part of the 3 takeovers of Lincoln Hospital. And while I'm here, I want to say, look at the film Takeover. It's about the Young Lords when they took over the hospital to demand quality health care. And out of that takeover came the Patient's Bill of Rights. Patient's Bill of Rights now is in every hospital room in the United States, just like the free breakfast program is in every school in the United States now. It was started by the Black Panther Party. The Patient's Bill of Rights was started by the Black Panther Party, as a matter of fact, with me representing the Black Panther Party, and is now a part of the culture of this country, that a patient has to be treated with dignity and respect and given free quality health care. And that was the call that we demanded: free, quality, preventive health care for all people. And we're still struggling for this.
I heard a few times about this canvassing.
In the party, we learned either plan or be planned for.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my community organizing and program delivery, I wanted the people to feel a part of being the planner, because you feel ownership in something. And if you own something, you take better care of it. It's not somebody else's.
We never advocated, for example, with the different community-based programs, that members of the Black Panther Party staff and facilitate those programs permanently. That was never the politics of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was always about creating a situation where eventually there would be a transition from party members and community workers to people from the community. So if we could have turned back the clock 50 years ago, at some point in different chapters and different NCCFs around the country, you would have seen people from the community cooking the breakfast for the Free Breakfast Children program. You would have seen people from the community driving the buses, taking people back and forth to prison. It wouldn't have just been the members of the Black Panther Party. Now you contrast that with the situation today, where we have a proliferation of nonprofit formations and groups of organizations that supposedly provide service to the community. Many of them do, but what they have done in actuality is create permanent jobs for themselves and for their
That's right.
right? And they don't really develop and enhance the capacity of the people who they supposedly serve to become self-reliant and self-sufficient and be able to do for themselves. So it becomes a codependent relationship. It reinforces our people's oppression. So that is a sharp contrast and sharp contradiction to the politics and the practice that was demonstrated through the Black Panther Party. We never were about that. It was always about, at some point, mothers and fathers would have to come in and serve the children, their children and other children within their communities and neighborhoods. It was always about people from the community at some point, staffing the free shoe programs and the free clothing programs and working in the free medical clinic, right? It was never about the Black Panther Party doing that work permanently and creating positions and jobs for us. that was just contrary to everything that we were taught. So when we said power to the people, we really meant it. We wasn't just saying it
Right.
rhetorically.
Tell us
Yeah.
about the daily. Tell us about your daily experience of being a Panther and the importance of trusting and relating strongly to others in the party.
Being a member of the Black Panther Party meant that you worked 24 hours a day. You were a hard-working person, and your work was directed at serving the people. First thing in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, we are up, going to the free breakfast program, cooking the food, picking up the children, singing the songs with the children, teaching the children Black history, then taking them to school. After that, we went out and we sold our newspaper, and we had assignments in different community organizations. If we were working on education, we went to the organization that was doing the education work around the community. If we were working on the development of sickle cell and explaining to the community why it is important for sickle cell to be recognized and to be uh, researched, because at that time sickle cell anemia and sickle cell disease was not even recognized um, in the public science among the scientists in this country. And it was the Black Panther Party that demanded that sickle cell be researched and recognized as an important disease to deal with, because it was a sickle cell came only to people of color, only to people of African backgrounds. So we worked on that. We went to study with the doctors so that we would be able to, in an organized and educated fashion, help with giving health care to the people in the community. We just didn't run out here. We don't know anything about health care. We worked with doctors. They taught us. They taught us how to use the machines. They taught us how to take the tests. They taught us how to read the tests, how to bring them back. And then we organized in the hospital. We organized workers in the hospital so that we could gain the support of the workers in the hospital so that we could get this work done in a complete way. It was a hard day.
Okay.
Then you were responsible for reading at least 2 hours a day. And not only were you responsible for reading 2 hours a day, you were responsible for being a part of a study group every day.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And there was a list of books from which you had to be aware. You had to be able to recite the 10-point platform and program and the 8 points of attention.
Paula, the Black Panther Party inspired people across the world. Why did people then and today find the Panthers to be so captivating?
Because the Black Panther Party was a revolutionary organization, transformational in everything we tried to do. As I said in the previous series, the Black Panther Party for me was a laboratory where we learned a lot of skills. We learned about the world. We learned about our history, those things that we were not permitted to learn during our matriculation from being a youth. I joined the party when I was 16 years old. And so people around the world were captivated by us because of our courage, because of our intellect, because of our ability, and our unrelentless pursuit of justice and freedom for ourselves, for our people. We dared to unclothe the emperor. We were unafraid. I think that had a lot to do with the fact that we were young, coming out of the bowels of America. Like, one thing that I always say, the Black Panther Party is the baddest organization ever to drop out of the bowels of America. And that's why people were captivated by us and by what we did. Because we were not armchair revolutionaries. We were not theoreticians. We would share with you theory, but we will also be able to tell you and inform you how the Black Panther Party took those theories and put into practice. And that was most highlighted through our survival programs.
Okay.
And we used to say survival pending revolution.
Pending revolution.
Why was having a local alliances with other organizations and groups so important?
Well, it was important. I'll just take use the example that Sister Rita mentioned earlier. When the pigs vamped on our office on August 30th, 1970, it was those alliances came into play. The people came in first after the pigs left and the Panthers were locked up to reestablish the Black Panther Party offices, because they knew that's where the services that they needed, they were receiving for free. And so as a result of that, we had the organizations like the civil rights organizations, NAACP, and others that were around at that time that would speak against what the establishment, what the police had done to the Black Panther Party. It was important to have a relationship and alliances with other organizations, because as a result of that, they would become somewhat of an insulator for protection of the Black Panther Party and a rallying force to protection of the party when the system came to vamp on us. You remember, as we talked about in previous sessions, J. Edgar Hoover would prevent the rise of a Black Messiah in his continuing efforts through COINTELPRO. And so by having alliances with other organizations, whether they believed in the principles and policies and rules of the Black Panther Party or not, most organizations that aligned with us did believe in our survival programs. They supported the Children Free Breakfast Program. They would even come and volunteer. Mark Clark Medical Center in Philadelphia, doctors of all ethnic backgrounds came and volunteered to provide free health care to the community in which we served. So it was always important to have alliances, not only with organizations, but throughout all the various skills area, whether you're dealing with health, education, religion. As you know, throughout the history of the Black Panther Party, we had a lot of Black preachers and Black clergy that supported the work of the party. They provided us their church to host our organizational survival programs. If we were having a fundraiser, as Brother Bird talked about, they would provide us their facility at no cost. Our very Mark Clark Medical Center was provided to us free by the Quakers in Philadelphia. We didn't pay any rent because that was an alliance and they believed in the work of the Black Panther Party.
Were you guys like shocked or surprised by the people that supported you during that time?
No, Rita's shaking her head. You want to answer, Rita? I don't. No, we were not. But go ahead, Rita.
No, we weren't shocked because we did, and we considered ourselves servants of the people. So we served the people mind, body, and soul all the time. And people that supported us could not necessarily put their neck on the line like we did, but they knew what we were doing was correct. So they supported us financially, and sometimes they came in service. And as Paula was saying about the Quakers, also when they vamped the office and Panthers were arrested, we had people, rich folks, they put their homes up to get Panthers out of jail.
That's right.
Okay. And we had lawyers that, gave us free legal services.
Bono. They work for free. Pro bono
services. And but people knew that they may have been afraid or figured it could affect their family or whatever, but they did what they needed to do to support us because we were supporting the community and doing what they really wanted to be able to do. And the people appreciated it.
People also responded to the imminent danger and imminent threat posed by Rizzo and his administration and his police forces as far as trampling civil liberties and civil rights. And so we had a lot of support in that regard, right? Like after the offices were vamped on, and that's a term maybe a lot of people don't use today, but that was a favorite word within the Black Panther Party. That was a code word, right? You say we getting vamped on, that means the party was being raided or Panthers were being assaulted, and that was really a call to defense and a call to arms. when the offices in Philly got vamped on and raided, two organizations that I remember very well that stood out were the Quakers and our comrades from the Young Lords Party, and how they came out and went from office to office, literally, as we started to regroup and regather, they was putting stuff together, right? And to me, that's a very good example of real solidarity. When your comrades get injured, your comrades get hurt, you raise the money to bail them out, and then while they're locked up, you clean up their office spaces, you put stuff back the way it's supposed to be, and you try to restore what has been destroyed, right? And so to me, that's a very strong example of really what it means to be a comrade and what it means to be a real ally, contrary to a lot of the rhetoric that we hear today about allyship. What the heck is that? That goes as far as the demonstration from last night to the demonstration this morning. Then after that, we ain't allies, we ain't comrades, we ain't nothing, right? So I think there's a lot of lessons that people can learn from the type of solidarity that was generated and that was celebrated between the Black Panther Party and other formations. And I'm going to just say one more thing just to demonstrate that. And, it was not uncommon within the Black Panther Party. Yeah, people would see the berets or the wide brim hats and the leather jacket and see a Panther button. But in the Panther Party, we wore the buttons of our comrades from other formations. So in the Black Panther Party, you would see us with buttons from the Young Lords, buttons from the Brown Berets, right? And they wore our buttons too. And so that's the way that we demonstrated support and solidarity among and between ourselves as a revolutionary movement.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Let's keep going on that lane, Sister Cleo. Let's talk about some of those alliances that the Panthers formed with other organizations in the United States.
I think that's pretty important. I don't know if the comrades know that I was both a Young Lord and a Black Panther.
I knew.
Yeah, we do.
We know. I mean, there's only a few people like that. You and what's the other sister? I can't remember.
Denise Oliver.
Denise, right? Denise.
Yeah, in the Bronx and in Harlem, the Young Lords and the Black Panther Party, we actually lived together. We worked together. We worked on so many projects together that it was almost impossible for us not to be working together. Mm-hmm. We built the organization called ATRUM, the Health Revolutionary Unity Movement, which was built up of Black Panthers, Young Lords, revolutionary doctors, revolutionary people from the community. And we built an organization that had a newspaper called For the People's Health. We also did another very important thing, and that was the 24-hour patient complaint table in the emergency room of Lincoln Hospital. And that was built on the relationships between the Young Lords, United Bronx Parents, people in the community, the different organizations that had been built up in the community, and the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party, Michael Setaweo Tabor wrote the pamphlet, Capitalism Plus Dope Equals Genocide. And based on his pamphlet, it was the program of the drug rehabilitation, the Lincoln Detox program. We wanted to rehabilitate people who were addicted to heroin, free of drugs, and help them relate to the community and use acupuncture. Comrade Batula Shakur, who's one of our political prisoners, is the one that went up to Canada and studied acupuncture and brought it back down. And that was the basis for the development of the Lincoln Detox program, which still exists, by the way. And there's so many programs that still exist because of the work that the Young Lords and the Black Panthers, and sometimes we also engage with the White Panthers, with the Young Patriots. The Rainbow Coalition, which was established by Brother Fred Hampton, and which, by the way, is one of the reasons many of us believe that Fred Hampton was assassinated based on the relationship that Fred was able to develop between the Young Lords, the Black Panther Party, and the White Patriots, and the Young Patriots and the White Panther Party. So I mean that this relationship and building unity all throughout the community. The Brown Berets, by the way, also Fred Hampton was involved in that. So we had the Rainbow Coalition everywhere, and sometimes it wasn't recognized because it had not been developed to the degree that it was developed in Chicago with the Blackstone Rangers and all the different gangs, which Fred Hampton also brought into the Rainbow Coalition. But it was all over the country. It was in Philadelphia. It was in New York. It was in in New Orleans. There were Black Panther Party and relationships with other groups of people all around the country. So this is.
You stated that Fred Hampton and his ability with the Rainbow Coalition could have been one of the reasons for his assassination. Why do you feel that way? Why do you say that?
J. Edgar Hoover was a vicious man, and his whole concept of life, his whole concept of living, was to stop Black people from emerging as a leader in and to lead other people in this country. And the Black Panther Party, the leadership in the Black Panther Party, well, first of all, was Malcolm X, and he was what could be considered a messiah, a leader that could unite all the people. Then there was Martin Luther King, and he was recognized as a possibility of somebody who could unite all the people and move forward and bring the United States to another level of understanding and another level of unity. And the same with Brother Fred Hampton. And these people, these vicious J. Edgar Hoover, FBI, COINTELPRO types who developed an entire program to viciously suppress the development of a messiah and an organization that could unite the rest of this country. And that we should be aware of, we should be conscious of, and that they have not completed this. They have not, and they probably will not until all of us who have the possibility of uniting people throughout this country have been suppressed. So that's why we have to watch our backs, and that's why we have to fight for the freedom of our political prisoners. This is so important. We have leaders. We have Sundiata Acoli. We have so many we have Jamil Alameen, H. Rap Brown. They still got a vendetta against H. Rap Brown and have brought this brother back into prison. Don't let me not take up too much time, but this is so important, that we fight for our political prisoners and do everything we can to free them.
Free them all.
We next week we talk about the political prisoners on the resources that could be given and more things that could be done to rally their cause.
We had a group of political prisoners who emerged from Philadelphia. First and foremost would have been the people that most people know of. That would have been Mumia Abu-Jamal, formerly known as West Cook, probably the most famous political prisoner, Black political prisoner in the world from the United States of America. And then more recently, we had Brother Russell Maroon Schultz, who passed away, right? Harun Abdul Rauf. And he was part of what was called the Philly Five. And then we have Brother Joseph Bowen, Jojo Bowen. So the Philly Five, I like to zero in on Brother Jojo Bowen, right? And then the Philly Five, because Brother Jojo, a lot of people know about Brother Jojo, but a lot of people, they don't really know about the Philly Five and the circumstances around the arrest and capture of the Philly Five, right? Which actually was used as a pretext to raid or vamp on the Philadelphia offices of the Black Panther Party, August the 30th and 31st, or August the 30th of 1970, right? So these brothers have been incarcerated for over 50 years now. Now we know about Brother Maroon, but what many people don't realize is that Brother Maroon was part of the Philly Five, right? See, so people don't really understand that, but he was part of the Philly Five. He just happened to be captured 2 years later. He went underground and he was captured 2 years later, but he was part of the original Philly Five. Out of the Philly Five, two of those brothers have passed away, Brother Russell Schultz and Brother Alvin Joyner. Earlier, I mentioned Robert Joyner. Robert Joyner is Alvin Joyner's brother. Brother Alvin Joyner, or Brother Otto, he passed away about 18 months ago. And we know that recently Brother Maroon or Russell Schultz passed away. But we have 5 still incarcerated, right? Hugh Williams, right? Fred Burton, and Robert Joyner. Okay. So when we talk about free them all, we talk about free all political prisoners. We need to like really zero in on these remaining comrades of ours from the Philadelphia chapter of the Black Panther Party and the Black Unity Council who have now been incarcerated over 50 years. Like we need to talk about how we can strategize and what we need to make happen to get some type of release for these brothers. Right. So I just want to throw that out there. You know, the Black Panther Party, we would not like, you know, we wasn't Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts either. When we talked about the right to self-defense and we talked about our power to the people, we meant that. We meant that in a very real way, right? But we still need to do everything we can to free our comrades and free our people.
Absolutely.
When you guys talk about Rizzo and vamping, let's who exactly was Rizzo?
Rizzo was Philly's #1 pig. He was a police officer. He became the police commissioner, and then he became the mayor.
Okay,
that's right.
He disliked Black people. He disliked the Black. He disliked as a student. I remember he attacked us when we had a demonstration at the state office building, along with his friend George Fensel. George Fensel pulled a gun on me, and after I got out of the Black Panther Party and was going to Rutgers University, I applied for a scholarship with the Democratic Party in Philadelphia for volunteerism. And I listed all my volunteerism because, like I told you, my mother had been an activist, so I'd been volunteering forever. And they were so impressed with my record, I was going to be given the scholarship. So it was held. Since I was going to be given it, it was held in my neighborhood. Our council person had set it up. And Rizzo came to present it. He had no idea he was going to be presenting to me, a Black woman, a Black Panther. And so I knew I was getting the award. Ms. Newkirk told me. And it was a white girl. I don't remember where she was from, but she was getting an award, but she wasn't getting the award. So when they started reading the person's profile, which was my profile, I stood up. And he said, "Oh, wait, this isn't for you. This is for Ritagay Sisk." And everybody in the room bust out laughing and knew me because I was Ritagay Sisk. And it hurt that man to his heart. I looked him straight in the eye, and when he had to give me my check, because he just knew he was giving it to this little white girl, because there was no way a Black person could volunteer that much. So, because the last time he had seen me, it wasn't under the same circumstances, but he disliked the Black Panther Party. He disliked Black people. He was what you would call a full-fledged pig.
Straight up. Straight up.
And he attacked the Black Panther Party offices. And I remember I had to interview the neighbors that lived on the block where the office was. And I went to the corner store on the corner of 29th and Cecil B. Moore. And so I was asking the lady, she was an elderly lady about my age and now. And she said, "Well, you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to my son." And so I'm interviewing her son, and he's telling me this. Then he says, "Let me tell you something." He said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "I'm a police officer." He said, "The day of the vamp," he said, "I should have known, but they asked me to take off because it was somebody needed to work because they couldn't be off in a couple of days." They gave him some crazy idea, right? But they shot up the block. And he's like, "I could not believe what I was seeing." He said every black person had to be in their home because they shot up the block. He said, I'm a police officer. They shooting at me. They didn't care who lived there.
Right.
So they were told to destroy that Black Panther Party office, kill everybody in there, and any witnesses. And that's what they tried to do.
Wow.
But
Wow.
to God be the glory and our benefit. We survived.
How did the party relate to people outside the United States?
And we supported the liberation movements and struggles of various entities in their struggle against the U.S. imperialism. Vietnam, members of the party had met with and spoke with, I think his name was Nguyen. It's spelled like Nugent. And then Huey later said that he would provide soldiers as well. Their leader responded with profound gratitude. We take notice for your enthusiastic proposal. When necessary, we will call for your volunteers to assist us. Then I think it was Yasser Arafat. We were influenced by Frantz Fanon, Chairman Mao Zedong, the Chinese revolutionary founding father, Che Guevara from Latin America. He was their revolutionary martyr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first free, independent president. So we realized that internationalism was paramount to our freedom and liberation.
The Black Panther Party was a product of the various anti-colonial movements that had emerged and developed in the post-World War II era. So it wasn't just the Black Panther Party as a standalone organization. The Black Panther Party was connected to various anti-colonial and national liberation movements around the world. We inspired them and they inspired us, right? We certainly resonated with other colonized people in a very particular way, which is one of the reasons that you see the emergence of a Black Panther Party in Israel, for example, amongst a certain caste or group of Jewish people, basically Jewish people of color, who, because of their exploitation and oppression, even within Israel, when they heard about the Black Panther Party, they gravitated towards us. You see the same type of phenomena with the colonized people of color in New Zealand and in Australia, right? In the UK, in Great Britain. All of these places created chapters of the Black Panther Party, right? And then even those people who did not fit that particular category still loved and continued to support the Black Panther Party, right? We had international relationships with the People's Republic of China, with the then Soviet Union, with Cuba. We had relationships with North Vietnam. We had relationships with the Basque people in the Basque region who were fighting for their freedom. We had relationships with the freedom fighters up in Ireland. We had relationships with the freedom fighters up in Quebec in Canada, right? So the Black Panther Party was very well connected as an international entity. And I really believe that is one of the things that made us such a huge threat to the United States government. It wasn't just what we were doing inside the United States. It was the potential and the impact that we had internationally. Because by having that type of impact and having those type of relationships, it would have been very easily for us to develop to a point where if we did engage in massive armed struggle, we would have international support and probably receive international recognition as the vanguard political organization of the Black liberation movement.
Khalid had mentioned earlier about the New Zealand's. We met some when we were at the 50th anniversary celebration. And they said how they took that 10-point platform and program and followed it. We had other countries that did the same thing, other organizations, and will tell you today that they based their organization on the 10-point platform and program because we all had a right to determine our own destinies. And when you're dealing with the country or an imperialist giant like America, you have to be able to come together because we all realize that we're too small by ourselves.
A few nights ago, I was watching some movie. I forgot. Maybe I just saw a clip of it. It was probably set in the 1960s, 1950s, during some of the earlier civil rights work, right? The women was doing most of the work, a lot of the work, and then it got to the point where more or less the speeches was going on, or the recognition of what was going on. At that point, that's when the men wanted their name attached to something. The sisters was like, "But we're doing the work. We're here." And then the male at the point, so more or less had like a preacher role, whatever. And he said something like, "Because everybody would take us more seriously." At that time, and even today, you can see how it goes. Same thing goes on today, where men feel like as if they need to be the ones running things and taking over organizations, when women are the backbone of the movement. What role did that play in the Panthers?
The Black Panther Party was not a standalone phenomena. The Black Panther Party grew out of post World War II movements for freedom, self-determination, and independence. We called our movement here domestically, the the generic name was the Civil Rights Movement, then later on the Black Power Movement. And the Black Panther Party and other formations, we really represented the Black Liberation Movement, which was distinctly different. But we were not a standalone phenomena. And just as you had sexism and patriarchy and male chauvinism that existed before any of us became conscious or any of us became revolutionary, it continued even after we became members of the Black Liberation Movement and became members of the Black Panther Party itself. So within the Black Panther Party, yes, we had to deal with issues of male chauvinism. Yes, we had to deal with issues of sexism and patriarchy as it would be traditionally defined. But unlike a lot of the other contemporary organizations, we recognized it as being a problem, and we took steps, concrete steps, to address it. Brothers and sisters had to be held accountable for their roles and for their duties and for their work and for their responsibilities. I worked in the free breakfast program for children. I couldn't sit on my behind and tell a sister, you need to get up and go downstairs and cook. I didn't know how to cook that well, but I knew I could do some other stuff, right? So I had to get up like everybody else. I had to sell papers like everybody else. I had no position of leadership. I had no position of authority. As a matter of fact, I talked about when I joined the Black Panther Party, or when I first got introduced as a community worker, initially, there were 3 of us who went to the first PE class that we had experienced. My first instructors in the PE classes were sisters. Matter of fact, one of the sisters was Rosemary Millie, right? Now, I have to say this. I don't want to embarrass her again. I said this to her. We were at the 35th anniversary, and I didn't know her son was standing there, and I was joking about it. But me and my homies, when we went to the class, we kept looking at her because back in them days, the sisters was wearing mini skirts. And so we was talking to each other, saying, man, them Panther women is bad. That's all we was talking about, right? We didn't know nothing about racism, capitalism, imperialism. All we knew is whatever these Panther sisters were saying, it must be good because they look good, right? And we came back the next week. You see what I'm saying? So was that a sexist way of thinking for a 16, 17-year-old kid? Probably so, right? But at some point within the Black Panther Party, we saw clearly that they were making concrete steps to address issues of sexism, patriarchy, and male chauvinism. They instituted policies, they disciplined brothers when brothers got crazy. In crazy situations, you could be suspended, you could be expelled. I'm gonna be honest, you could get your butt whooped too, right? So, we took concrete steps to address that stuff the best way that we could at that particular point in our development. So I'll just leave it like that.
A part of the whole system of capitalism is to have men to lead women in the society, to have men enjoy a position of leadership over women in everything that happens, except that because we were members of the Black Panther Party, the Black Panther Party did set it up, and thank you, Brother Bird, for saying that, so that we had equal responsibilities. So the women sold as many newspapers as the brothers. The women got up and did the free breakfast program. We engaged in the healthcare struggles. We organized the community. We struggled to have an equal physical consciousness. So we trained in karate. We trained with our PE. I know that everybody understands what that is, with having the ability to clean your weapons and know how they worked and all of that when it was necessary, so that there was a level of equality that took place inside the Black Panther Party that did not take place in the rest of the society. And I am so proud of coming from that kind of experience that allowed me to have the strength to struggle in the rest of the society and to struggle in an equal way and with the rest of society. And I'm gonna stop right here and let some of the other sisters respond. And by the way, I'm so proud of y'all sisters. Y'all, 75 is the new 50.
Well, you're looking pretty good, sis, for your
Yes.
75. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all are beautiful and strong and intelligent, brilliant. So thank you.
Thank you. That
My
comes from
comrades
the
in the Black
laboratory for me.
That's right.
For me, it came from the laboratory as a result of being in the Black Panther Party. Party taught me skills. But let me stay focused around solidarity between men and women. That was something we wanted to cover before the end of the program as a part of this theme, solidarity. I learned about free will in the Black Panther Party. Free will is a principle of the party that meant that when it came to relationships between male Panthers and female Panthers, they were on an equal level in relationship to how they wanted to deal with another. If a sister wanted to approach a man and have a relationship, a male Panther, and have a relationship with him intimately or otherwise, she had the free will to approach him, and vice versa. Society would had taught us up to that point, it was always the man that would take the lead. So our solidarity wasn't only external with other alliances and allies, it was also internally within ourselves, because many of us did not know the Panthers that we met in the party. When I joined the party, I knew Mamiya, who shortly left thereafter. I knew my best friend, Linda Brickhouse, who subsequently left. I stayed. But outside of that, I met everybody else there when I got there. I didn't know them prior to joining the Black Panther Party. So there's a level of solidarity that had to be developed, nurtured, trust, love. That had to, when we talk about love of the people, we had to equally have love of our fellow comrades, because when times became threatened, we had to walk back to back. And so you had to be able to trust that person that actually held your life in their hands as you walked back to back into the unknown. And so in the Black Panther Party, I learned about how you could have solidarity between a man and a woman, and it does not have to be intimate. Our comrade, Bruce Deacon Washington, who was murdered out in Oakland, California, came from Philadelphia and went out to Oakland based on orders to come out there. I slept in the bed side by side with Deacon. Never had to worry about Deacon touching me, having any kind of threat to my physical body, because first and foremost, we were comrades. I didn't have any issues with Panthers with party members until I went out on the coast. But you won't know about that till you get my book.
Okay.
That's coming.
We got more books coming. But
Yeah, that's coming.
so this level of solidarity that you guys had, how hard was that to develop? I think it's very important to understand when you are forming organizations or being with somebody, especially at this level of trying to change what society does, there has to be a level of trust.
Check this out. Being in the Black Panther Party was a 24/7 type of thing.
That's
right? I remember points, Brother Saeed, Robert Joyner, telling me like there's no such thing as a part-time Panther. So being a youngster myself, I took that literally. But we were really not just brothers and sisters, we were comrades, right? Because we engaged one another and we engaged the people that we served. And we were in a lot of tough life and death situations together. And that really strengthened and solidified as far as the type of solidarity that we developed. Now, for some of us, we did know each other as homies and classmates and all that. And so there were personal relationships, family relationships, but the strong core was based on the work that we did as members and supporters of the Black Panther Party. Serving the people solidified and strengthened our ties with one another. And the fact that we had to deal with imminent danger and the threat of death and incarceration on a regular basis. I oftentimes tell people that one of the best recruiting tools for the Philadelphia chapter of the Black Panther Party, it wasn't Rita, it wasn't me or Point or Russell or anybody or Reggie. The best recruitment tool we had was Rizzo, right? You go to the neighborhood, you say, dude, you want to get back at Rizzo? Young boys say, how can I do it? What you want me to do, right? You know, one of the things that attracted me and my crew was when they came around the neighborhood, they had Panther papers, and on the back, they had these drawings by Emery of Black men and women standing up, fighting against the police. That resonated with us. That imagery, powerful imagery and propaganda, that resonated with us. We wanted to figure out how could we become one of those type of dudes. And we looked at Points in them like, these some bad dudes, right? They ain't going against the police. These some bad dudes. We got to try to be like them. So that's that solidarity and that's that unity based on work and based on commitment and based on dedication.
I want to just talk about the internal solidarity among the sisters, because the one thing that one experience that I had in the Black Panther Party is that the sisters did not have a competitive thing against each other that was divisive. And let me tell you why. I was a organizer in the South Bronx, and when the Black Panther Party asked me to become a Panther, so I had to go down to the office to sign up to become a member of the Black Panther Party. Afeni Shakur, her sister Gloria Jean, Sister Oda Fonda, and was all sitting around the front of the office. And Sister Janice Cyril was the officer of the day. And I ran up. I said, "Oh, good afternoon, sisters. I'm here to become a Panther." They was like, "We know about you. You that organizer girl from the South Bronx. Come on in here." And I have been friends and comrades with those sisters from that moment to today. Those have been my close comrades who I know love me and I love them under all circumstances, not a competitive thing. Now, of course, later on, when the breakdown of the party, there have been some competitive things that have taken place. But to tell you the truth, the strength of our unity among the women has been to support and push forward each other in whatever our endeavors have been, whatever our goals have been. So I want to appreciate the sisters in the Black Panther Party for that.
Yes,
Was there?
I
Go ahead, I'm
must
sorry.
agree with her on that, because in Philadelphia we had quite a few sisters, especially in I'll say 69, 70, and the sisters were supportive of each other. And even though the brothers were our comrades, they still tried to be protective of the sisters. And we knew we couldn't be out saying we love the people if we couldn't love each other.
That's right.
So we had to love each other, look out for each other, and just be there for one another.
So how did you guys deal with disagreements?
Based on the principles of the Black Panther Party, all of the agreements were handled.
That's
We
right.
had principles, we had policies, we had rules. We gave you some examples last week. Bullwhip mentioned, we don't take a single needle piece of thread from the masses. So we had rules that basically managed Panthers. Plus, we were a disciplined paramilitary organization. And so we handled our disagreements based on the very principles and rules of the Black Panther Party that you had to learn as a part of your joining of the Black Panther Party, besides having to read and studied ourselves to make certain that we knew what we were talking about. We had to know the principles. So if a comrade got out of line, being out there in the community, when he came back in the office, we knew how to get him back in line based on the fact that he had violated one of our principles and therefore embarrassed the organization, therefore be brought on charges before the local central committee, you might call them, or before the OD, the officer of the day. As soon as you come in, you tell the officer of the day what he did while we were out there on the street.
No investigation, no right to speak. And that was
True.
a major principle, that we did not go on what you thought happened, or there was always investigation of whatever set of conditions, and then you speak. And there was ideological struggle from the top down and from the bottom up. And that's the way the principle of the organization was. People would tell you, some people had wrong positions on things, like pussy power. That was a wrong
Yes.
position.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a
Right.
young boy. I'm like, what kind of power? You said black power? No, brother. We talk. Really? Okay.
No.
All right. So yeah, I remember that. I remember that struggle very, very well.
Well, it was David Hilliard that said it. David Hilliard said that pussy would destroy the party.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that when that came from, but it was somebody else, I think, from the Central Committee who advocated.
Eldridge.
That was Eldridge who advocated it. David Hilliard cautioned us about it becoming an issue, but it was Eldridge who presented that and said that it could be used as a vehicle for organizing. And it was like, that didn't really work out. Even though I will say this, as a young brother, I remember very well, there was a sister who I liked. She was a little older than me, and she was more advanced than me. And she told me up front, she said, brother, you a good young brother, but you don't know enough yet to try to talk to me. So I went back to study. So now, if that's what Eldridge meant, it was effective. But all that other stuff, nah. So, yeah, we had problems and contradictions that we had to deal with within the party. And sometimes things were not always pretty, certainly wasn't perfect. What I try to remind people of is the fact that within the Black Panther Party, our leadership cadre was anywhere from about 15 to 35 years old. Right? A 35-year-old person was looked upon as a senior citizen within the Black Panther Party. Now, we all know, most of us know, that at 35 years of age,
you're young.
Your best day, you still don't have it all together. Okay. Right. But here it is at 35, you were looked upon as a senior leader and advisor and cadre to provide strategic leadership for a national organization that had international implications. And in some instances, we had 15, 16-year-olds who were calling the shots. I mean, literally, this was from coast to coast. So I say all that not to justify our mistakes and errors, but we had a lot of growing up to do. We really did a lot of growing up to do. And, I just want to put that out there. We should not judge ourselves too harshly, right? We should be liberal about it, but we shouldn't judge ourselves too harshly in light of who we were at that particular point in our personal as well as our social development.
I think what is critical is that we were not liberal, and that therefore what we shared at this point this evening is a living example for those organizations that are out there trying to learn how to organize and deal with the dynamics of solidarity between brothers and sisters when they're not necessarily a partnership, an intimate partnership, but at the same time they have to function within an organizational structure.
Agreed. Go ahead, Ike. What were you going to say?
There's one more question in the chat, I think, before we wrap up, that I believe it was Morgan asked, how did you establish some of your international connections?
That's a very good question. Well, I think a lot of it was because of necessity. And I think a lot of it was a reflection of the times that we lived in. Once again, the Black Panther Party didn't come out of the blue. The Black Panther Party was a product of history. The Black Panther Party was a product of the conditions that existed at that particular point. Many of the leaders of the Black Panther Party were folks who had been born in the middle of the Great Depression and as the Great Depression was coming to an end. Those are the senior leadership. And then many of the younger members, like some of us here, we were the folks who came about in the post-World War II era, right?
That's right.
And so we were products of the time. We were products of history, okay? And so these connections were made out of necessity. So the fact that Eldridge Cleaver, for example, after Bobby Hutton had been killed by the pigs, Eldridge Cleaver fled and he needed political asylum. So he wound up in places like Cuba. He wound up in places like Algeria. Why was that important? Well, Cuba was just trying to get itself together, trying to rebuild after its successful revolution. And Algeria was basically doing the same thing, having fought against French imperialism and French colonialism up until the early 1960s, right? And so if you look at the history, look at the conditions, those are how the connections were made, right? The word got out, this person needs help, this person needs asylum, this person is seeking refuge. We would send letters of communication in support of, say, for example, the Vietnamese, the National Liberation Front there, or send a letter of support to the people up in North Korea, Kim Il-sung. We even adopted some of their rhetoric and some of their slogans. Juche, self-reliance. That became a very important slogan within the realms or within the ranks of the Black Panther Party. And so that's how we made these connections.
To add a little bit more. Now, obviously, I only know what I've read, so you all can add or correct me. But someone who I think is worth mentioning when we talk about the international connections of the Black Panther Party is Connie Matthews, who was actually a European Black woman who gained membership in the party and helped arrange connections between European allies and the party itself. Arranged a visiting tour for Bobby Seale in, I believe it was 1968. And then another thing, when we talk about the international relationships of the party, it's important to note that Huey Newton and other Panthers visited China 1 full year before any American president ever set foot in communist China. That's from 1949 all the way until 1972. Huey P. Newton and other members of the party visited China and met with Prime Minister Zhou Enlai, which I believe Cleo mentioned earlier, a full year before Richard Nixon did in 1972. And so that should give you a strong sense of how revered the Panthers were at that time and how much influence they had across the world as well.
Well, some key principles of solidarity that liberation groups today can copy, can use.
Principles of the Black Panther Party are discipline they can use to assist in their movement, the willingness to collaborate around those issues that we share in defeating imperialism in America. I would believe there's those are some of the examples that they can utilize from the Black Panther Party. Emulating means where there are likeness of minds, and they can emulate the Black Panther Party based on likeness in relationship to the very principles and foundations and belief systems that we expressed, that we demonstrated. They can learn from that, learn from our examples, learn from those things that we did not know, and therefore they became a challenge so that they don't make some of those same mistakes. They can also emulate us based on what Brother Bird said earlier, well, what he stated earlier, how we went around the globe and established relationships with a whole lot of international comrades. And as a result of that, they became protectors for Panthers that found themselves having to leave America, just like as I mentioned again last week, our comrade Sister Asada Shakur. Masada is alive today because of the comrades of Cuba. And so using that as one example.
Black Panther Party, principles that all contemporary movements should embrace and live by. If you really respect it, you want to try to emulate the Black Panther Party wherever you happen to be, whatever space you occupy. Anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, pro-socialist, and pro-self-defense. You do that, you're on the right track. You can fly that Panther emblem. If you ain't about none of that, you want some other type of mission.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
That's it. He capsulated it.
I guess before we go, is there anything else you guys would like to add on before we check out?
No. I just want to focus on working together and how important it is to develop trust and direction and political consciousness through your work together. And you have to work hard, and you have to work together, and you have to be committed. And I think those are some central things that if you have those things and you're committed to making change in the society, making a better place, and you're committed to doing good for the people, that's the bottom line. It's doing good and making change for the better, and commitment.
I wanted to say that America, as we know, is not with the ruling class is not very creative. So all they do is like refrying old beans. As I said before, COINTELPRO is Homeland Security now. They're not very creative. When it comes to our children, and we talked about the youth of the Black Lives Matter movement, that we have to always reach out to give them guidance, to make certain that they don't make the mistakes that we made, because we are the living example. We didn't have much. I mean, I was a Malcolmite when I became a Panther, but we didn't have a lot of examples because our leaders were murdered at the hands of this fascist country. So I think it's important that we, as veteran Panthers and those in the Young Lords and from other liberation movements, always be living teachers and examples for our youth so that they can lean on us and continue to run the race until we have total freedom and liberation in this country and in the world.
Okay. Now, how can anybody in the is watching now or may watch it later? How can anybody get in contact with you guys?
I see some emails and phone numbers in here. What do you want us to release, Bird, far as you? You want both of them released or just your email?
Yeah, you can release the email. You can release the website to the organization, New African Independence Party, as well as the phone number. So release it all. It's all good.
I'm putting in here the National Alumni Association of the Black Panther Party that I serve as the president of. Our email is in here, as well as we have a website, naabpp.org. I'm putting that in here also. And then again, I want to invite the audience and my comrades to join next week for the last series, which is going to focus on our political prisoners. I saw one of the chats, Ike, the sister mentioned Ed Poindexter. I hope she comes back next week. That's been locked up in Omaha, Nebraska for over 50 years, that she will come and join us next week. We will have our political prisoner committee and others that work in alliances with the Black Panther Party on next week's show.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the comrades for being there, and thank you for 55 years of solidarity and support. So I appreciate every one of you.
Yes,
right
same
on.
here. We love
Thank you, and stay well. And as we
healthy.
say with each closing of the Black History series, which has just been totally fantastic throughout the month of February, to my brothers, our brothers from 360 Collective, we thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to inform and educate and communicate with our greater community. Thank you. We look forward to continuing to work with the collective.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
360.
Good night.
Yes,
Thank
all power to
you
the
all.
people.
All
All
power
power
to
to
the
the
Power to
people.
people.
I'll get to the point. There's just one